We really appreciate that. I hope you become a regular here. All right, that would be kind of cool. Anthony, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate that, man. And who else do we have here? Big J, what's happening, man? Rod Maida, how are you from Australia? Gosh, we got a lot of Aussies in here tonight. That's awesome. Cosmic, bonjour, Julien, comment ça va? Moosehead, thank you for joining us. J Fox Hunter, Polar Eclipse, good to have you guys here. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. I do not think so. Are you and Vinny still banned? You guys were never banned. Eric with a K. You know, we are, Lon, did you know we are Eric with a K's fourth favorite show? We're number 4. Yeah. You know how hard it is to become number 4? It is difficult.
Yes, it is.
We were at number 2 at one point, then we dropped to 3, then 4, then 5, but we worked our way back up to number 4. Love it. Love it. All right, we got 10 seconds before we go on. Hey, Guillerme, how are you? Vive les habitants, my friend. Conflict Radio, good to see you. We're going to kick this off right now. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. I'll tell you, if you have never heard Lon Strickler speak, you are in for a treat tonight. Lon is a Fortean researcher, author, and publisher of the syndicated Phantoms and Monsters blog. He began the blog back in 2005, which has steadily grown in popularity over the last number of years and is read daily by tens of thousands of enthusiasts, investigators, and those seeking the truth. His research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources. Several of his articles have been published on various television segments, including History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Paranormal Witness on SYFY, Fact or Fake, Paranormal Files, and Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. His website, once again, is phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon Strickler, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Dave.
It is always a pleasure. Now, for a lot of our listeners who may not be familiar with your work, I always like to start off real easy. Lon, this is a cast of characters of sci-fi that you deal with in regards to these phantoms, these monsters that you were tracking. How did you get started in this?
Oh, my. From the very beginning, I actually had started when I was younger. I knew something was different about me. I could sense certain things when I was younger. Until one day I was out the Gettysburg battlefield, and I was riding my bike. I used to ride my bike out there a lot in the summertime. So I was 8 or 9. I was out in the area that they call the Valley of Death, which is near the Little Round Top, the wheat field, and Devil's Den. And then all of a sudden, it was just like a large TV screen opened in front of me. And I could see gun smoke, hear gunfire, cannons, scream, yell, smell all kinds of gunpowder smells and other not so fine smells. And that lasts for like 30 seconds, and all of a sudden it just stopped. It was a wake up call, actually. I then realized that, yeah, maybe something is going on. I had always thought maybe something was a bit different, but I don't know. I just seemed to progress as time went on. I didn't really, I didn't really do much with it when I was younger. It's not like I lived in a haunted house or anything. I used to go to a lot of places when I was a kid. And we used to go to the battlefields and stuff, especially. So there were places where there was conflict, antique stores, or even like even a cemetery or funeral home. I was really getting inundated with a lot of energy. So that happened, and I kept going into my teens. When I went to high school, I started doing a few investigations on my own. Now this was back in the mid 1970s. So, when somebody said, you told somebody you're a paranormal investigator, you kind of got that funny look, and especially being a kid, you got the real funny looks. People thought you were strange. So, when I graduated from high school, I had a stint in college, and I moved down to Maryland. And when I moved down there, I started working. I started doing a lot of freelance investigating on my own. People, by word of mouth back then, would find out that they'd have something going on in the house or business or outside somewhere. They would contact me through secondhand information, and I would go and do the investigations. And and I did that, and I can actually continued to do that when it was not too far. But in 1981, I had a Bigfoot encounter near Sykesville, Maryland, and that's kind of when my eyes opened up, and the whole supernatural thing kind of opened up for me. And I wanted to know what it was I saw. I wanted to know what was out there, and I really got deep into it.
When you have those personal encounters, how did it really change your entire focus and the way you think?
Oh, it just opened everything. I mean, I wasn't closed-minded, but, when I saw this thing that looked like a Neanderthal or some type of early human, I didn't really know what I was looking at. I've heard of the Boggy Creek thing and all that, but, I didn't know what I was really looking at. And, I did eventually think, yeah, maybe this was a Bigfoot. But as I did more and more investigating, especially with that area, because there had been a flap of sightings in that area about 8 years prior to that. And people were dubbing that the Sykesville Monster. Well, there have been a lot of sightings back then and since too as well. So so I became interested in it, and as time went on, I got into other cryptids as well.
Now, when you decided to put Phantoms and Monsters together at phantomsandmonsters.com, did you ever expect the response that you would get compared to just putting information out there? Because it's almost become cultish the way people have to check it out and see what's going on in the world of the weird.
Yeah, I had no idea. Actually, I was writing for a couple other blogs at the time, and one of the guys who owned that other blog, which was down in Maryland, it was East Coast Ghost, I think was the name of the site, and his name was Mike, and he suggested, you ought to start your own blog. You got a lot of strange stuff you've experienced and that you're coming across. So, I kind of grudgingly did it. I didn't really want to do it. I was disabled by then. I was on disability by then. And so I wasn't working steady. I was basically retired. And, I decided, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. Put my time into something a little bit useful. And, it was slow at first. It took maybe 4 or 5 years for it to really pick up. But, it eventually got better. And started getting more recognition, and that's where it's at now.
Let's go back to that Bigfoot experience that you had. Take us through what happened there.
Well, this was May 9th, 1981. Spring day, about 10 o'clock in the morning. I was fishing. I was fly fishing on the Patapsco River, a place I've been a lot. I used to go there several times. I was on the south bank, and I was actually standing in the river with chest waders on. And I happened to notice across the river, and really this isn't a wide river. This is, at that point, it's maybe 40 foot wide. So in the bushes across on the north bank, I noticed a dog was out there, and he was running around, going in and out of the weeds and stuff. He wouldn't bother me, so I just didn't pay him attention. But then I heard a yelping sound. I heard this thing yelp. And when I looked over that way, I saw something huge stand up in the weeds. And I can see it maybe mid-body up because the weeds were so high and so thick, but it looked like a hairy human. So as I watched this thing, it moved toward my left and walked about 20 or 30 steps and walked out of the weeds into the gravel bank of the river. And, I was pretty close to it. I was maybe 40, 50 foot away from it. And it's standing there looking at me. This thing's about 7.5 to 8 foot tall. Mostly hair, thick brow ridge, conical head. But the face looked more human than it did ape, quite honest with you. Very muscular, definitely a male. I could see the genitalia on this thing. And it stood there for about 10 seconds. And we just locked eyes. It was making a clicking sound with its teeth. That was weird, but, I didn't think much about it at the time. And as we're looking at each other, it just suddenly turned around and walked swiftly up into the woods behind the weeds.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. It just like it wanted nothing to do with you. Just like, yeah, you saw me, you caught me, and now I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this thing. Well, I know this thing was being chased. Actually, it was. I don't know what the situation is, and I still don't know. But when I came back later, after I called the police about seeing it, when I went back to the area, there was another police officer already there, and a state cop, and he told me I'd turn around and leave. And he already had the old wooden barriers across the road. So I told him, well, I made the call, and he said, well, you got to leave anyway. I said, okay. So I lived in Sykesville at the time, so I drove home, and maybe about an hour later, I decided I'm going to drive back down and see if I can get in there and see what's going on. So when I did get there were cars everywhere. I had to park actually about a quarter mile down the road before I could even get up there, and walked up the street, walked up the road, and it's old narrow country road. And I mean, tell you, there were vehicles everywhere. I mean, black vehicles, black Wagoneers, what the government drove back then. State, county police, local police, people with dogs going in and out of the weeds and such up into the woods. I estimated it was over 100 people there. They had a big white tent set up where I had seen this thing, and they got there quick. I could hear a helicopter, didn't see a helicopter, but I heard one. So it's funny. I asked the Howard County cop that was standing there. I said, being dumb, I said, what happened? He said, somebody said they saw a Bigfoot. Well, I didn't tell, when I called it in, I didn't say that. I just said, I think I told him it was just like a big hairy man or something to that effect. So I thought, well, I don't know. We'll have to, I just stood there for a couple more minutes, got in my car, and left. I called the news people in Baltimore at the time. They seemed very interested. They wanted me to contact them in 2 days, or they'd contact me. And maybe 4 days later, I contacted one of the news stations, and they didn't want to talk to me. So it was covered up. And one of the local police officers eventually got a hold of me and told me he wrote down everything that he experienced while he was there. He said they knew what they were looking for. So he didn't know the whole story, but I do know maybe 2 hours prior to the time I saw this thing, there was somebody had seen it about 3 miles down the river near Marysville, Maryland. They had called the cops or something, and people were out looking for it. But that isn't the reason why they were looking for it. I mean, there was something else going on. When you in the Baltimore, Washington area, there are a lot of facilities that people have no idea what they are. Nothing's marked. I don't know if this thing was part of something or whatever. I've heard a few things over the years about possibly being some type of facility that these things were at. This thing maybe escaped, possibly. I don't know. I've heard a whole lot of stuff over the years. That's basically what happened. I became very interested, and after this happened, I told somebody about it who I worked with, who actually lived in Sykesville as well. And he said, "You don't know about the Sykesville monster, do you?" I said, "No, I didn't know anything about it." He said, "Well, I tell you what, I got a lot of relatives that live down by the river in Sykesville who saw this thing back in '73. And, if you want to interview and talk to them, I'll make sure you do. And I did, man. I got a beautiful opportunity to talk to people that never even talked to the press at the time. I probably talked to all the original witnesses, plus about 6 or 7 more. So I got a pretty good idea of what had been going on. Now, I don't know why this thing at that time was there. And a lot of people tried to say it was because of the flooding from Tropical Storm Agnes at the time, or Eloise. I don't know which one it was. We had a lot of flooding back then, but that's where it was that's where it stood. So, that really got me interested. I mean, I really got into a lot of the cryptid activity, especially in Central Maryland, and then kind of expanded out.
For you, as you started down this cryptid journey, did you expect there to be way many more stories? Were you just focused on Bigfoot because you had that encounter? Did you expect there to be dogman and phantoms and monsters and gnomes and gargoyles and these little walking sheets through the forest that look like a pair of legs with eyes on top? At what point did you really open up that the cryptid world is massive with what people are seeing?
Well, when I got into the doing the blog, I started doing a lot more research. So now, of course, in 88, I had that winged humanoid encounter, but I hadn't had anything happen beyond that. And I always wondered what that was all about. And that was kind of as weird as it got for me at the time. And, then 20 years later, when I decided to start doing the blog, or 17 years later, I started doing much more research. I was inviting people to send me encounters and such, incidents, reports, and all about anything, actually. And that's, I guess from a whole period before I started doing the blog, I used to do a lot of traveling. I used to go all up and down the East Coast. And every time I went somewhere, I literally would stop somewhere and talk to the local folks around, and they would tell me all kinds of crazy stuff. And I kind of kept a journal of it. And, when I started the blog, I had a good basis to start off on a lot of encounters. This stuff was never even said or mentioned or written before that. So then, of course, when I started the blog, and I really didn't want to come forward and talk much about the SYFY thing or the winged humanoid thing, but I eventually did, and that kind of opened everything up then. You know, people knew I was an experiencer, and, I could kind of relate to what they were going through. And that, I guess that kind of made it able for me to talk to people about what they saw and give them an idea of what, some type of explanation.
Now, for a lot of these creatures that people have reported to you over the years, as we got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Geez, Lon, some of them just sound so far out there, and I realize you're somebody who takes people, you have to report on the accounts because that's what your website is for. But do you believe a lot of these weird things people see?
When I take an encounter report, I always take the witness at face value. Basically when they contact you, you're part of their experience. So until I can, prove otherwise, I go ahead and get more information from them, then post it. Yeah, there's some weird stuff out there. People report all kinds of strange things, stuff I never even thought about. But, there are a lot of things that do occur that, people think are unbelievable as well. So, just for instance, all this stuff that's been going on in Chicago with the winged humanoid sightings. I mean, who the hell ever thought that would have happened? I mean, the fact that, it was such a flap and so many people would contact me or my investigators and, they would everybody was describing the same thing, having no idea it happened, to somebody else or this had been going on in their area. It was an eye opener.
Now, for you, have you ever had a report or two that you just look at this and you're like, really? Like, come on. Like, why are you sending me this crap?
Yeah, you get some of this stuff. You can really get, I do have to be picky. I just can't take anything and put it up there. I am choosy. And, if it's crazy to the point and I can't back it up and get any further information, I won't even mention it. But then again, you do get some reports that just seem so out there, but the witnesses are so forthright and don't change their story and stick with what they told you originally. Those are the gems you like to get a hold of, and those are the ones that you continue looking into.
Yeah, those are the ones where, somebody explains their stories and then, they write it all out in an email, and then when you call them up to get further info, the story is identical to that email. I mean, that's one quick way to see whether or not somebody's BSing you or whether they're adding parts to the story that sound a little outlandish.
Well, that's an aspect of what we went through when we started doing the Chicago investigations. We were pretty careful about what we were getting and how people were telling us what they saw. And, there was 3 main investigators, but we had other folks there doing work as well. And we were all amazed at how people were sticking with their stories. They weren't embellishing on it. And quite frankly, that's very rare.
It is, eh? It is very rare. I even noticed it on this end, too. Lon, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, and I really appreciate you taking the time for our audience tonight. You're one of the favorites out there, Lon Strickler. I will say this, and anytime Lon speaks, this man commands the respect for his research because he's been doing it a long time, and that's why he gets all the weird breaking stories when these weird cryptid creatures seem to be flying around, walking around, slithering around, or haunting around. Lon Strickler, phantomsandmonsters.com. You can find all his books on Amazon and his website. Check it on out. We'll be back with more Lon Strickler right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. All right. Double Tim, thank you so much for that super chat, man. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much to Snakes, to Heidi, Anthony, Cat Chaser, and Ed for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Really do appreciate that. And who's come in here? Oh, there's Little Marky Spender, everyone. There he is. The man who says when we are in the forest, if a grizzly bear chases us out, he's shooting me in the leg. Little Marky Spender, everyone. That's my friend. That's what friends do. When in doubt, shoot Dave in the leg. UFO Not, how are you? Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube. Right there, Dry Toast. Good to have you guys here. 160 people already. 30 minutes in. We're in for a great show tonight. Lon Strickler is our guest. You guys are awesome. Absolutely awesome. Let's see here. We're going to get into a ton of stories from Lon. So just, Lon's literally the man. He's like Macho Man Randy Savage. He will climb up on that top rope and he will drop an elbow on every cryptid possible. Every single one. This is the man who will literally walk out of a cage match unscathed with Dogman. Polar Eclipse, how you doing, buddy? Edens, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Let's see here. And my business partner is probably absolutely smashed right now in Montreal because his Montreal Canadiens staved off elimination in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. So he's all happy about that. All right. All right. You have a good weekend for the 4th of July?
Oh, man. I tell you, the day they allowed fireworks back in Pennsylvania, that was not a good day. These people around here are nuts. My cat is smoking cigarettes and taking drinks all day long. Oh man, it was unbelievable. I'm basically just sitting around working on the book now. I just that's what I'm trying to get done now. So that's what I did.
No, I hear you. Up here they allow fireworks. Down near Vancouver they don't. And so when I moved up here, it was like literally I drive to my gas station and I could go buy fireworks right now. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, really? This hasn't happened to me in like 20 years. Right? And, oh yeah, blow that.
Yeah, well, here they didn't do it for years. I mean, when I was a kid, it was illegal to have them here in Pennsylvania. We would have to go, actually, we'd have to go to West Virginia or down to Washington, D.C. and get them. And, the police were always on the border just waiting for people to bring that stuff back up. And, so.
I remember when I was like 18 years old, my buddy and I drove down to cross the border. We drove into this area, real dark, gloomy area, to buy some bottle rockets, and we undid the dashboard of his vehicle, and stuffed about I don't know, like $100 we were only 18. $100 was a lot of money back then, but $100 worth of bottle rockets in the vehicle. And we get to the border, and we were so scared shitless. That was the first and last time we ever did that.
Oh, I believe that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to Sweet Donna C for that amazing super chat. It's a great way to support the show. Hi, gorgeous Kira. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. You can find all of his books on his website, is here, and we are talking weird, strange encounters and cryptids tonight. And Lon, I want to start one off that you posted just earlier today, because I'm going to tell you right now, my friend, I hate clowns. I hate clowns. You know, honestly, I just hate them. Don't like them. Don't like being around them. Want to literally punch them. When the movie It came out and Pennywise and everybody's running around in clown costumes, I literally refuse to get in my car because I hate clowns that much. And now we have apparently a haunted clown.
Yeah, you know, I'm like you. I'm not a fan, and you know, I don't push it watching TV with clowns and such. So, you know, this report was actually forwarded to me by a friend, and he thought it was interesting, so he sent it over. I read it. I got a hold of the witness, and she verified it. Apparently what happened was her family, it was her mother, father, and her, were living in this single bedroom apartment. And, you know, a friend of theirs gave them this toy clown. I guess it was something you could hang on the wall. It had like a ceramic head and cloth legs and arms and such, you know. I mean, she said it was cute. Anything like that to me wouldn't be cute, but they, you know, it's a gift. They hung on the wall above the bed, and, you know. So she was having all kinds of strange vibes from this thing all night long. The dog was freaking out. The dog kept staring at it. And, you know, she just didn't like it, you know, basically. So eventually, I think the next day, her and her mother, her father was on a business trip. Her mother had a friend over to spend some time. He was in and out of town. And as things progressed, this this clown must have caused some type of sleeping disorder with her, because, I mean, she just literally like passed out on the floor watching TV. Her mother and her friend came home. They couldn't get in the door. Everything was locked up. They called the fire, I guess police and everything, to try to get her to wake up. They couldn't get her to wake up. They freaked out. And eventually she did wake up and heard all the racket and opened the door. Her mother and her friend were crying. I guess they thought maybe somebody killed her or something was going on. And as you know, as they were getting things straightened out, her friend had mentioned something about the clown that night. It just seemed to be bothering her as well. So that was the end of that. The clown got put in the garbage somewhere, and they didn't have to deal with it again. But haunted objects is, I mean, it happens. I mean, I told you earlier, I go into an antique store. It's torture for me, basically, because I'm an intuitive, and I can just feel the energy coming off all types of items. I'll go into a house where it's imprinted somehow, and it bothers me. I can't go to a funeral without being bothered. I'm sitting here at my father's funeral right in the front row, and I've got two spirits whispering in my ear, and another one doing something in front of me. It's that kind of thing. They do want your attention, and they'll do about anything they can to get it. And haunted objects is very real, and we do, but I do get a decent one once in a while where I just have to post.
What's the most haunted object you've ever come across?
Wow. Probably a bed. There was a woman in a town not far from here that I live near Gettysburg, so she was in Littlestown. And she swore that something was haunting her somehow or another, and she was blaming it on voodoo, hoodoo, and all kinds of other Creole religion, magic, and such. And because she was from New York, and her grandmother was actually a hoodoo priestess, and she felt like something was attached to her after her grandmother died, because it was just like something that her grandmother did to somebody, then it fell upon her. But anyway, this bed was her grandmother's. And I don't know if, and I didn't know it at first. She didn't tell me that. But when I did go there, it turned out that I could sense it right away. Now, I don't know what it was that was haunting the bed, but it wasn't human. I mean, it was some type of concocted entity, some type of manifested entity. And, I tried all kinds of things to clear it, tried to contain it. And she eventually just got rid of it. And when she got rid of the bed, then she moved back to New York. But, I think that's probably the most haunted object I've ever had to deal with.
Jeez. I haven't had to deal with many, probably Mandy the Haunted Doll. She's never done anything to me, but I know she did try to literally kill my buddy Merle. And that was a couple of years ago, where Merle literally blanked out. All he remembered was being in front of the doll. Next thing he knows, he feels a hand on his shoulder, and he's out near the highway walking towards the traffic. That's close enough.
Yeah, dolls and things that kids hang on to do seem to be imprinted pretty easy. And it's almost like the child who owns the doll or the toy does something to increase the energy somehow. A lot of kids, a lot of girls that play with their dolls, they treat them like they're real. And, if this thing starts moving about, it's just part of their imagination. Of course, they're not telling their parents that, but when the doll starts going crazy, then something's going on.
You know what, though? That almost looks like, if you expand your mind a little bit, maybe I'm going a little too woo here, but it almost is reminiscent of the movie Toy Story. Because the toys there are literally there to make the kids happy, and they're not ready for the kids to grow up. And when the kids grow up, you forget about your toys. Yeah. And you move on. They end up in the junkyard or at a garage sale, or in somebody else's hands that maybe doesn't treat them as well. And you look at it and you're like, maybe those toys come to life because of all the energy and love that kid put into them. And now that the kid is gone, the toy is pissed off.
Yeah. It wants attention mostly.
Yeah.
It wants the attention it missed from when the kid was playing with it. I've talked to several people in the past who had toys when they were younger, and they kept them, but they just ignored them. They had them on a shelf or in a box or somewhere when they got older. and these things would act up. And especially if this person had children. And they would know that the child was there and were trying to seek the attention of the child. And I had one instance. God, I just remembered this. I had one instance where this woman had an older doll that was actually, I think it was her mother's when she was younger, but she kept onto it. She hung on to it, and she had it in in some type of closet, but it was a glass closet, so you could see it. And she collected dolls, and this thing kept ending up in her daughter's bedroom. She went in there one morning and saw this thing had its arms wrapped her daughter's neck, scared the crap out of her, just like she thought this thing was trying to kill her daughter. That was the end of the doll.
All right, let's move on to another one here, my friend, because you got so many of these creepy stories that I just kind of freak me out a little bit. All right, this crawler humanoid that's been popping up recently. Recently, you had a story about it in being seen in eastern Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these crawler humanoids, which is going to be the subject of my next book, actually. I wish we had more information on them, what they really are. Overall, they look like they range in sizes. They go from anywhere to 4 to 8, 9 foot tall. They're usually hairless. They got kind of pale skin, emaciated, bulbous heads. Sometimes black eyes, sometimes illuminated eyes. Usually long, skinny arms and legs with long fingers. Many times they have small noses or mouths or nothing at all. And they just seem to pop up. And I don't know. It's hard to tell what they're there for. People call them all types of different things. They call them rakes. They call them flesh gates, crawlers, pale humanoids, It runs the gamut, actually. I think a lot of this started. Let's do this first. I started hearing about these things about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. There was some incidents going on out in the California side of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and people were seeing these crawler humanoids, these white humanoids, and for whatever reason, one of the early witnesses called this thing Penelope. And that's what they referred it to. And I talked to a couple of the rangers at this area, and they verified it. They said, yeah, these people keep telling us that they call it Penelope. They tell us what it looks like. They got all kinds of descriptions. But basically, it's that emaciated, crawling humanoid. Sometimes it's upright. Sometimes it has a witch's face, all kinds of different descriptions. But it's usually in that area, a specific area in the Sierra Nevadas. And I've talked to 2 rangers about it, and they've had reports. They've had people report them. And they not many of them went into specifics, but they had no idea what the hell it is. I mean, I think one of the early witnesses thought it was a ghost. But as they thought about it, they really started to believe this thing was flesh and blood. So as time has gone on, these reports are starting to get out there more and more. I think most of the reports that I've been getting have been in North America for the most part, U.S. and Canada, but mostly. There have been some down in Mexico. There have been a few over in Europe, in Russia. But, there have been some photographs taken of them, some video of them. Just weird. I mean, I don't know where they're coming from. I'm quite sure they're not indigenous, but I'm not saying they aren't. When we started getting into the winged humanoid phenomenon in and around Chicago, up and down Lake Michigan, we didn't know what that was. But as time went on, we started getting the feeling that this thing might have been some type of interdimensional being, because people started seeing them either suddenly show up or suddenly disappear. But then as time went on and more of these sightings started to occur around O'Hare International, there were UFO sightings as well as other gray humanoid type sightings along with them. So I'm not going to say that these crawler humanoids are not some type of interdimensional being, or possibly some type of alien being. There's just no way right now to really tell what they are. And quite frankly, that's why I'm doing so much research on it, because I'm looking for those accounts that kind of lean toward a specific reason why they're here. But to this date, I just haven't found them.
Now, these crawling humanoids, are they just being seen in Kentucky, or other states reporting these as well?
Oh, they're everywhere. I mean, every state. You had Butch on the other night. I don't know if Butch told you about it, but he's looking into a report near him.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's got camera traps and everything out there. There's a state park near him. We've been getting a few of them in Pennsylvania. I talked to Stan Gordon about it. He's told me he's had a couple of reports. But no, these things are nationwide.
Really? Doesn't matter on the territory. It doesn't matter whether it's desert or forested or wherever. It's
mostly forested areas. There have been some residential areas, mostly residential areas that do have green spaces. But people have seen them in their yards, and people have seen them in a lot of different places you wouldn't think they'd be at.
Now, are these aggressive creatures?
For the most part, they aren't. People talk about Wendigos and these supposed cannibal type cryptids that kind of look somewhat similar to it. These aren't, for the most part, show any aggression. They just seem to show up. And when they show up, they scare the hell out of whoever's seeing it. I had a story a while back where these two girls were out in their shed on their property, and the father, the shed had a lot of different equipment in there, and he had a camera installed outside that you could see inside what was out there. And they heard something banging outside, looked up onto the screen, and this thing is standing out there. They had no idea where it showed up. There have been instances where people would be out in the woods hiking, and all of a sudden this thing would be standing on the trail or nearby. We have also had reports of these type of humanoids in Chicago, especially around the Rosemont area and in some of the green spaces that are actually these green spaces and preserves are all over the Chicago and Cook County area. And we've had a couple of those as well.
That's just weird, man. That's just weird. In the next half hour, as we got about 5 minutes to go here, I want to get into the Mothman sightings that are all over the place and spend some time with you on that. But these creatures that are crawling on the ground, are they seen walking as well?
Yeah, they do walk. They are bipedal. But for the most part, a lot of them tend to like to get down on all fours and to creep about, move about. But they have been seen on on biped, on two legs, moving about as well. I guess the name crawler was because of the way they kind of creep around the ground. People do notice them doing that. And the one thing about them is their skin seems to have some type of luminescence to it. It's weird. I mean, you saw that report in Kentucky where they put their flashlight on this thing and it kind of glowed. And that's weird.
What's the difference between this creature and a few years ago, which was seen in one of the national parks, that looked like a big pair of MC Hammer pants walking around in the sun?
Oh, you're talking about the Fresno night crawlers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to do an investigation, go back and do an investigation as well on that for the book. And we really don't know what that is, but they have showed up a couple of times. It's the damnedest thing. I mean, if there wasn't any photographic evidence of it, I would have real doubts about it. But those night crawlers and these other humanoids, there is some photographic evidence out there, and we don't know what it is, but at least we're getting something. And the people you talk to that have these experiences, it really imprints them. I mean, it just literally scares the hell out of them.
I just can't imagine what it would be like encountering them or seeing a big pair of MC Hammer pants walking towards me. Like, do you all of a sudden play Can't Touch This, and then they start jiggling to the left and then jiggling to the right? I don't know. Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, the original thought was these are some type of alien beings. It would usually show up in groups and just seem to be randomly walking forward, and I don't know. It's a conundrum, actually. I don't think people really have any explanation as to what it was. But, it was about that time when we started getting a lot of these reports. They were starting to come out. And, since then, it has really, really grown. And, it covers a lot of places.
I bet, man. I bet. How often are these sightings happening?
Oh, daily.
Daily?
Yeah, it's happening all the time. I read a lot of short accounts from people who report them, and it just seems to be inundating the social media. Once in a while somebody will contact me with a longer report and be more specific. But there are people all over the place that are really that are actually seeing these things. So that's why I got Butch looking down there at that state park, because it's a weird area anyway. Because he has told me that he's had a lot of reports there of a lot of weird stuff over the years. But the fact that one of these things showed up, and that one in particular was supposedly eating animals and such. So I don't know. He's got the traps out, so hopefully he'll end up getting something.
So they are eating animals.
Some of them seem to be, yeah.
Weird.
Some of them seem to be.
And they haven't been very active towards humans.
Other than scaring humans, that's about it. When you see something like that and it shocks you, it can kind of make you feel like it's threatening you. But no, really, I don't really think that has been part of its repertoire. I've had people ask me, well, is this thing a meme? Is this something that, like the Slender Man, where people are basically manifesting it, or a thought form, or they're imagining it? It could be to an extent, but to the amount that we're getting, I don't think that's the case.
Interesting. Lon, it is always interesting to get into these topics with you, and I can tell you, we are going to get into a lot more questions from our audience in the next half hour. We're going to go down the road of the Mothman, because Lon has been front and center of looking into these recent Mothman sightings over the last couple of years, starting around Chicago O'Hare Airport and been reported around. He's got a great collection, a great book out. If you want to find any of Lon's books, all you got to do is head over to his website, which is phantomsandmonsters.com, which is always a good one. And my God, these reports that are on phantomsandmonsters.com, I got to tell you, they are second to none. If you want to scratch your head over some weird, strange cryptids, this is the only website to go to. It's where I go. If I need something weird, if I need some woo, I know Lon Strickler is going to deliver for me. It's because of his beard. He's got one of them power beards that really helps the woo out. Lon Strickler and Monster Talk. We're going into Mothman next on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. Lon, I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
I've got you muted here. Be right back, people. All right, buddy, I'm back. All right, go like this. Bring it back in. Have you heard from Linda Godfrey lately on how she's doing? I got a few people asking.
No. She's been really quiet now for almost a year.
I know.
I don't really know exactly what's going on. I've heard a few things, but I don't really want to say. I've heard people say she's got cancer and
I've heard
she's
that.
recuperating. Yeah, so I really don't know, but I know she's not been active at all.
Yeah, I haven't wanted to place that phone call either.
Yeah. Yep, I'm the same way. We've lost so many people in recent years. It kind of freaks me out every time, I do it. So
I hear you there, brother. I hear you there. Hello, Jennifer Lane. Welcome to the chat room. Soullight, good to have you back. Let's see here. Yes, right there, the moth and the guitar. Actually, this one has a really nice headstock, too, on it. Just a Washburn. Show you the headstock there, if we can get it clear without the shining. It's got a skull on it. Yeah, it's pretty badass. Oh, hey, Clam. How are you? Good to see you. All right. Yes, phantomsandmonsters.com is the website. Thank you, Mark Salzman. I will get to your question there, Gorgeous Gloria, in a few minutes. Thank you, Soulite. I will check that email. I am trying to lose weight. Thank you for noticing. It's also because my beard is about 6 pounds lighter. All right, big thank you to Michael, to Donna, to Jim, Tim, Snakes, Heidi, Anthony, Cat Chaser, and Ed Clater for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you to our new subscribers. Here we go with Hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio kicking off tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that you can listen to this show for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Flummadiddle. Flummadiddle is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight from phantomsandmonsters.com. We have Lon Strickler here. You can find all of his books on his website, as well as some really weird, strange reports. But right now, we're going to get into Mothman. This is a creature that we thought was all part of Point Pleasant, West Virginia back in the 1960s, but no. Over the last decade, Mothman has made a return, this time to the state of Illinois and surrounding areas. Lon, welcome back.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
All right. Mothman Part 2. Are we dealing with the same creature as we were 50 years ago?
In a way, I guess. I've always thought that the Mothman at Point Pleasant was an interdimensional being. It was a summoned being. I believe it was summoned because of all the very strong indigenous energy around the town, in particular the West Virginia Ordnance Works area, where people call the TNT area or whatever that is. I've heard a lot of EVP activity in that area over the years. I've been there. I've really sensed a lot of weird things. I think that this creature, the Mothman, what people called it, the Mothman, was a summoned being used as a guardian, a sentinel to help protect the energy, the spirit around there. Now, as far as what's going on in Chicago, I also believe that it's an interdimensional being, but there are some bits of evidence that may suggest that it may be extraterrestrial or non-terrestrial, or however you want to describe it as well. I don't think it's summoned. like the being in Point Pleasant. I think it is here or there in and around Lake Michigan because of a opening of a rift somehow. Now, how that rift has opened, why it has opened, well, there are a lot of different theories. You know, the one popular theory that we have looked at is the accelerator at the Fermi Labs out in Cook County being regenerated in recent years. There has been some news coming from there in the past year or so. The facility was supposedly closed about 8 years ago because of an accident. Nobody knows what the accident was. If there was an accident, did this thing open something up? I don't know. Other than that, you know, I don't know how we can really explain at this point what these things are and why they're coming or showing up. But it's been pretty widespread. You know, we're looking at sightings within a 250-mile radius of Chicago City. And in more recent times, since October 2019, a lot of these sightings have been occurring in and around the O'Hare International.
What do you think is causing this latest set of sightings? Because wasn't it almost like 50 years between, or 40 years between sightings of this creature?
Oh, no. You know, I have been getting sightings of similar winged creatures, Mothman-like creatures for years. Really, I have been getting them off and on for many, many years. The Mason County area, the area around Point Pleasant, has been active. And in fact, the Ohio River Valley area from anywhere from Cincinnati north up into Pittsburgh has had a lot of different sightings. I've documented a few of them. A lot of the others have been reported, though never really documented. So, yeah, I mean, the Mothman flying humanoid phenomena is nothing new. This has been going on for a long time, and actually worldwide.
All right, this leads to a question from Gloria in our chat room. Do you believe, Lon, that Mothman is an evil being or good in some weird way?
Oh, I don't think it's evil. I don't know if it's prompted somehow or cornered. It couldn't lash out. There have been a few examples of it actually maybe being a bit aggressive. The one in Point Pleasant was aggressive. That one would chase cars and chase people and all kinds of other things. What we're dealing with in the Chicago area has been somewhat less aggressive. We did get a report from 2015 of a couple that were attacked, and the woman actually had sustained a laceration on her back from this thing attacking her. But quite frankly, that's the only one that I really have.
Interesting. Okay, this leads to great question from Joe, who is asking, do the videos of flying witches in Mexico have anything to do with flying humanoids, or are they completely something different?
I think it's absolutely different. You know, I've talked to Gerhardt actually about that because he did a lot of the investigations down there in northern Mexico around Monterey and such where all these flying witches, or what people call flying witches, were showing up. And he doesn't believe it's any relation to flying humanoids or Mothman. It just seems to be more of a supernatural being. Maybe it is a witch. I don't know. I mean, I know there was a confrontation with a police officer in one of these towns with one of these things, and he said it looked like a witch. So maybe it was some type of, I don't know, some type of occult or some type of supernatural being, but I don't think it's related.
All right. Jules is asking, I'm going to edit this question a little bit here. Any precursor anomalous reports before any type of tragedies like what happened in Point Pleasant?
I don't really believe the Harbinger theory. I think Point Pleasant, I don't even think there was a warning for Point Pleasant and the Silver Bridge collapse. You got to realize these sightings were going on for about a year prior to the Silver Bridge collapse. When it did happen, somebody claimed that they saw the Mothman above the bridge. But then again, there were structural problems with the bridge. 46 people died that day from the collapsed bridge. And you've got a small town with a lot of weird stuff going on. The first thing people are going to do is try to blame what happened on what they've been going through. So I don't really buy into that. The only incident of a flying being or a winged humanoid or something to that effect that was reported prior to an incident was the Blackbird of Chernobyl. People in and around Chernobyl had been reporting of a large black bird that was seen flying above the reactor days prior to the actual meltdown. Now, that's the only incident that I can find where there were reports of something being reported beforehand. There have been other stories, supposedly just like Fukushima or the bridge collapse in Minneapolis and other places. But I just can't find any proof of any prior sightings.
All right, let's move on to 5900, who is asking, do you believe Mothman is a tulpa?
I guess in some instances it could be. I guess if you're inclined to believe this type of being, you're out somewhere in the middle of nowhere thinking, I hope I don't run into a Mothman, and suddenly one shows up. Maybe it could be a thought form or a mind manifested being. But for the most part, and just from what people are saying who have no idea what these things were, I just don't believe that's what it is in general.
No, eh? How often are these Mothman sightings happening?
Well, when this was you're talking about just Chicago?
Just Chicago.
Okay. We had the sightings in 2011. There were 3 of them during the summer and early fall. Then it kind of waned off. There was one here and there. People would talk about it and say, well, they saw this and that. But, starting in the spring of 2017, we started getting these reports more consistently. I think for the most part, and I'd have to really go back and look at it, but I think we probably averaged 2 to 3 sightings a week from maybe May 2017 up into July 2017. So they were pretty consistent.
Let's get to another question here. This one from Witchy, who is asking, do you think Indrid Cold and Mothman were or are connected?
I do now. Yeah, I do now.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, I didn't at one point, but after we got a recent report of a Mothman sighting and somebody claiming in a phone call to be Indrid Cold, and then discussing this with Dr. Raymond Keller, who has been, he's a ufologist and a UFO and alien historian. The guy is amazing. I have asked him, when I got this report from New York and I talked to him about this, he believes, and he told me the other night on my radio show, because I had him on, he said that he believes there is a connection. And he believes that the sighting in Point Pleasant at around the same time that the Indrid Cold situation happened north of there, he thinks it's connected. Now, from talking to him and the fact that we had this recent witness who came forward, and I had an investigator, a friend of mine from New York City, go up there and spend time with this woman who had these encounters. I believe something's going on there. Now, Raymond also believes that Indrid Cold is still around. Of course, Indrid Cold was supposed to be from another planet and another system, and just showed up and talked to Woodrow Derenberger, and he saw him twice, and the whole story about the encounter. But every once in a while, we'll get an indication that something's going on that's possibly related to Indrid Cold. Now, the fact this woman had had this encounter, she, was near her home. She, 20 minutes after that, she was on the phone with my friend talking to him about it, and she got a call waiting, and it came up on the call waiting on the ID as Indrid Cold.
Really?
And she answered the phone, and she didn't know anything about Indrid Cold. She asked, and he said, "Do not be telling anybody about what you saw." Now, how would he know she saw this thing? She hung up, got scared, told my friend about what she just saw on the phone, what this person just said. He was freaked out. He didn't know what the hell to think about it. He wasn't going to go up there until she told him about that. Then this Indrid Cold, called her again. Now, she didn't answer the phone the second time, but it came up on ID. We tried to trace the call. We couldn't get anything. So, I was on the horn with a couple people about that. And, but when I talked to Raymond about it, he was positive that there is a connection between Mothman and Indrid Cold.
No kidding. Lon Strickler is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Moosehead is asking, are these winged humanoids like the ones in the Beastmaster movie?
I don't think so. Those things were... I don't know of anything putting their wings around people and dissolving people's bodies. I guess... I think Hollywood kind of comes up with a lot of the stuff that they do come up with out of possibly legends and stories that may be true or people say are true. But as far as the Beastmaster, and I forget what they called those things, I don't think there's a connection at all.
All right, a little bit off topic here. Magnus is asking, what's up with the Dogman sightings map that was hacked? I haven't. I don't know. I don't think I've reconstituted it, but I may do that. I had the Chicago Mothman map, and I had the Dogman map up on Google Maps, and they got hacked. I don't know what happened to them. Google has no idea what happened to them. So I redid the Chicago map, but the let's see here. I don't think I have the Dogman map up there yet. Yeah, I've been working on it. So yeah, I may go ahead and do that again. Sounds good. Back to Mothman. For people who may not understand the type of creature we are looking at here, what does it look like? Define it. How tall? What's the wingspan?
Well, the creatures that have been been reported to us overall have had a height from anywhere from 5 to 6, maybe 7 foot. Dark in color, very dark in color. Some of them even actually looked like they were shiny or like there was liquid on them. Emaciated bodies, like an emaciated human. They had legs, they had arms. The arms were sometimes attached to the wings, sometimes they weren't. The wings themselves had a span of anywhere from 10 to 15 foot, and they were membrane wings like that of a moth, not a moth, like a bat or a gargoyle. The head, not like what people would think with the insectoid Mothman. The head, for the most part, was a thin head with many had the bright red eyes. And, that's much different than what people had seen in Point Pleasant.
Do you believe that this creature that we were seeing and that we relate to as the Mothman is targeting certain people, or is it people who have never had sightings before that are having these encounters?
That's a question we've asked ourselves many times. I think it has a way of distinguishing people who can see it. I have thought maybe it has some type of cloaking of some type that were certain people who cannot see it. Though we haven't had an instance of where several people have, there have been a group and some saw and some didn't. So I don't know if that theory is valid or not. It just seems to show up at certain locations where people are. Very fleeting, fast sightings, just seems to come out of nowhere and then leaves just as quickly. That's one of the reasons why we don't get photographs. The thing's so fast. And many times by the time somebody realizes what they're looking at, when they get over the shock, they're not grabbing for their phones, and there's no shot of it. We've got a couple pictures that maybe of these beings, maybe something, but as of now, we just really can't determine that's what it is. So,
but you don't believe, but you don't believe there is violence attached to this creature.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think I have not found any proof whatsoever that any of these winged humanoids that we've been reporting on, in the United States or in Canada, because we've had a lot of Canada as well, are have anything to do with violence.
That's interesting, because I think we all kind of look at the Mothman as being a creature of violence.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reputation it has.
I just don't see that. I know other investigators have mentioned that, or have come up with theories as to why they believe it's got some type of ulterior motive or something, but I just don't see that. I just think that they kind of move in and out for nondescript reasons. There haven't been any, hasn't been any evidence of feeding on animals or pets. We haven't seen any of that.
Do you think they're interdimensional?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think they are. I think, or they're able to move within other dimensions or even realities. Though that's kind of far fetched. I think it's mostly the ability to move through dimensions. Now, is it a dimension that's associated with one of our dimensions? I don't know. I mean, is it a wormhole that's coming from another planet, galaxy, or so forth? We don't know.
Final question on this is, we got about a minute left. Have you noticed any patterns with these sightings or with the people who have had the sightings?
No, that's just it. There is no real connection between any of the witnesses. It really runs the gamut. I mean, regular folks, professionals. We've had police officers out at O'Hare. We've had security guards, TSA agent guards. We've had flight controllers, even pilots. It is no descript type of person who's seeing these things.
Is this thing being picked up on radar?
Not that I know of. If it has been, we're not being told. We have filed some Freedom of Information Act requests on some of the sightings at the airport, but that's kind of a waste of time. They're just not getting back to us with anything positive.
Lon, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, as it's time for a break once again here on Spaced Out Radio. Time always flies when we have Lon Strickler on the show. PhantomsandMonsters.com. When we come back, let's learn about wild humans, and maybe we'll get into some more weird, strange cryptids. when we get back as well. I pretty much guarantee we will. All right, we're clear.
Okay.
Rocking crowd tonight. We hit 207 so far.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's not bad. I think it's your beard.
That might be.
Oh, we had one question earlier from Bombshell Bomber, I believe, who was asking about that real comfy recliner you're sitting on. Where did you get it?
I got it on Amazon, actually.
That does look comfy.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's big, too.
I like that.
Once in a while, the cat will get up there and make an appearance, but he's not in the mood tonight. My producer calls it the, oh, God. I forget what it calls it. Recliner of the Arcane or something. I don't know what the hell it calls it.
The Arcane Recliner?
Yeah, or so. I don't know what the hell it was. I don't know. Chair of the Arcane, maybe.
Either way, sounds manly. Very manly.
Hey, I like to be comfortable when I'm doing this.
Me too,
I sit in this chair when I write. I sit in this chair when I do the blog and when I do interviews and the whole 9 yards. I just want to be comfortable.
Don't blame you. Do not blame you for a second.
But I hear shit about it, believe me.
How can you bitch out a chair like that? Honestly.
I do hear it.
Honestly, it's jealousy is what it is.
Yeah, it might be.
I had a chair like that once. And then I got my dog's nuts cut off and came home from work, and he decided, I'm going to pay you back, motherfucker, and he tore my chair up. That's true.
Yeah, well, I believe it.
Yeah. Hi, Robert Moore. How you doing? Well, Mennonite Abe is saying, I want that chair. I don't blame you. Mm-hmm. Once you've sat in that chair, you'll realize you've been standing your whole life. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't even blame the dog for ripping apart my chair after getting him neutered, you know? Can't even blame him. That dog hated me for the longest time.
Did he?
The longest time. Oh, yeah. Still got him, though. Still got him. That was Doug, everybody. The dog who comes in my office, and when he lays down on my carpet, he farts in my studio here. It's terrible. All right. Magnolia, where have you been hiding? Haven't seen you in a while. So glad to have you back in the chat room, man. Aussie Steve, good to see you. I think like almost a third of our chat room tonight is Australian.
Really?
Yeah.
I get a lot of Australian traffic.
Well, if you're gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I got sinus issues, man.
So do I. Mine were induced by hockey.
I know a lot of hockey players who have had nasal issues.
I went for nose surgery in 1997. I have never felt so much pain in my life. Hey, Ozzy. I've never felt so much pain in my life than nose surgery. I've blown out my back, my legs, my knees. I've torn apart my ankles, dislocated my fingers. I've had, a number of concussions. And I'll tell you, nothing hurt more than that nose surgery.
Well, you had a puck hit you or you had a stick hit you?
No, it was a good fight. I lost. It was a best fight I was ever in. I ended up losing it, but geez, God, if I could do that fight again, I would. It was fantastic. All right, thank you to Magnus, to Lynn, to Michael, to Donna, Tim, Snakes, Heidi, Anthony, Kat, and Ed Clater for the super chats. Really enjoy the support. Thank you to all our regulars who are here tonight. We love you. 209 of you so far. Let's do this. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Lon Strickler tonight. Phantomsandmonsters.com is his website. You can find all of his books there, and this man is a literal encyclopedia when it comes to strange and weird sightings of creatures that are unexplainable. Lon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
What's the difference between a Sasquatch and a feral wild man?
Well, somebody must have read that recent report I had in Tennessee. I guess some people can make the argument they're one and the same. Though, it's funny. I had posted below there after I had posted that report. I have family that was raised in Mitchell County, North Carolina, which wasn't really far, just over the mountain from that Tennessee report, where these people have been seeing these feral men coming into their property and looking through the windows and such. And I had people say, well, they were maybe Sasquatch or something related to Sasquatch. I've been hearing stories about these feral mountain men ever since I was a kid. And, if you'd ask someone in my family, especially my Uncle George, who got a still up there in one of the mountains, he would disagree with you because he had Bigfoot tear up his still one time, and he saw it. So it wasn't a wild man who did that. So, I don't think they're the same.
No, so what are these feral wild men?
I don't know. Maybe it's people have just been isolated in the mountains for so long that they just really have no, human traits, or they have lack of human traits, and they just seem to roam around. But I have heard a lot of stories over the years. I mean, like I said, that Smoky Mountain area in particular, on both sides of in Tennessee and North Carolina, I've heard a lot of stories over the years. But nobody can really explain. Some say, well, they're part of families or inbred or all that. I don't know if that's truth or not. But, I don't know. But some of the stories are pretty damn interesting. I know that.
Are we sure it isn't just wayward humans who hated society and went off into the forest?
Sure could have been. Yeah, I believe that could be. You hear stories about people that just cut themselves off from society and live on the fringes, and that may very well be it.
All right, I got to get to this one here because this one, I remember talking to Jody Cook about it from the North American Dogman Project and this was about these dogmen type creatures that are being seen in war zones, and you have a report on that recently.
They are seen in war zones on occasion. Though there have been very few of them, I think. Maybe a misidentification, but there have been some. There have been a lot of weird sightings, a lot of weird stuff in war zones, in particular. I mean, there have been dogmen or upright canine sightings around military facilities. I mean, that's pretty common. Some of the facilities on the East Coast, particularly in Kentucky, in Georgia and such, there have been some sightings, consistent sightings of these type of creatures. As far as war zones go, I don't know. I know during Vietnam, there were a lot of sightings of the what they called the rock apes, and I've gotten sightings of other weird humanoids, possibly reptilian humanoids, and occasionally a winged humanoid. But as far as upright canines, not so much. But there've been a lot of sightings of weird things.
I remember when Jody and I were talking about this, because these creatures that he had reports of almost look like the Egyptian Anubis. And
like a jackal,
Yeah, with the giant swords and the body armor. And he told a story about how a platoon of American infantrymen actually came across these two Anubis-type creatures, literally hacking and slashing a bunch of Afghani soldiers. The Taliban soldiers, pardon me. And after we did that show, he actually got 2 new reports, one from somebody in the Air Force and one former Army member who actually confirmed that story. It really is interesting.
Yeah, I got this one, and it's part of the one you read recently of a goat herder in Afghanistan who actually reported there being an upright canine who attacked livestock, and he took this serviceman into a cave, and there were some scratches on the walls that looked like they came from something pretty vicious. There was some skeleton remains and such. He believed that this guy was telling him the facts. These service people who have done time are in Afghanistan have really come up with a lot of strange things over the years, even in Iraq, but mostly Afghanistan. A lot of large unexplained creatures, Bigfoot-like creatures, and also things they call ghouls, but spelled Ghool, that were very similar to these crawler humanoids that people have been reporting recently. So I don't know. I mean, this stuff has shown up there, and many times when these guys and gals come forward, and they give information that it's not from somebody who wouldn't be there, who wouldn't know the military. They're pretty specific, but they don't want to give out their actual name or unit.
I've heard that too. All right, let's go to Jordan. What do you think has the most sightings in the world?
What do you think has the most sightings in the world?
Which creature?
Oh, it has to be worldwide. I would say Bigfoot or something similar to a Bigfoot, a hominid. There have been sightings all over the world, basically. Not necessarily in Africa and South America and Central America, but in Northern Hemisphere, there's been a lot of sightings of Bigfoot and something similar to that worldwide.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be the biggest one, outside of any type of sea monster, that's for sure. The Ronald Penton is asking, what's the story behind those damn gargoyles?
we've had sightings of people describing gargoyles in Chicago. They're kind of this, in a way, the same of what people have been seeing, but they do have larger bodies and kind of gargoyle-like heads, and also the gargoyle wings. But yeah, there have been sightings. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I've had people report gargoyle sightings worldwide. What they are, I don't know. During that 2017 period, we had sightings of what people were describing as gargoyles down in Pasco County, Florida. And this one stretch of road going into the Zephyr Hills area, coming south from outside of St. Petersburg, I had 3 reports of these things that were literally described as gargoyles that were killing small deer or deer and piling them up along the side of the roads. And they'd see these things hovering above them. Had a guy up up outside of Cleveland, east of Cleveland, actually hit one of these things. Looked a hell of a dent on the front of his box truck, but when he got out of the truck and got out and looked, this thing got up and flew off. He swore it was a gargoyle.
Really? How big are they?
Oh, they most, I guess, about 5 to 6 foot. Yeah, they got a pretty good sized wingspan, similar to what we've been getting in Chicago, anywhere from 10 to 15 foot. But then again, just like the Chicago sightings, the winged humanoid sightings, they don't seem to fly like other winged beings. I mean, in other words, not like a bird. They seem to have some type of propulsion to them. It's supernatural, that they seem to just lift without flapping for the most part. Some do, some don't. But, a lot of these sightings where people have seen these things propel themselves from the ground without using the use of the wings.
Let's go over to Jeff here, who is asking, why do dogmen seem to come out of blue portals in threes? Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't heard of that one. The blue portals seem to be prevalent in some type of extraterrestrial type beings or extraterrestrial biological entities. We have an instance of a blue portal opening up, and where 2 humanoids and a gray, actually, in the presence of a winged humanoid, actually disappeared. I've been working with a gentleman by the name of David Eckhart for years, and he talks about the blue portals kind of opening up and these beings coming in and out through the blue portals. It seems to be something specific about a blue portal. Now, as far as dogman or upright canines, no, I don't know anything about that. We've had some instances where people would have an upright canine just literally appear like it came out of a portal, but there was no blue color or anything like that. It just seemed to, manifest itself. So I don't know anything about that.
All right, let's move on here. I believe we have more questions coming from our audience, but while we're waiting for those, here's one from Sasquatch. Lon, what about giants? Do you have any recent reports on giants?
No, I don't. That's one area where I know some people have looked into. I don't seem to be getting any reports about that. I know there are a lot of claims about bodies being found or, skeletal remains and such. I haven't really seen the evidence that proves that. There's been TV shows about these so-called giants or, ancient beings, ancient humans, or ancient entities that were giants. People talk about the Nephilim and stuff like that. I don't know where there's real tangible proof of that other than legend at this point. There does seem to be some interest in it, but the only giants that I have seen as far as any type of evidence are the Incan mummy giants, or the Peruvian giants, they call them. That they're not I guess their average height is like 7 to 8 foot. So, but that's the extent of it. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or anything to do with a specific race of people, but that's, to me, is about the extent of it.
Lon, let me just see here. Where are we here? All right, let's get to this question from Jennifer. Have you ever seen a chupacabra? If so, what was its features? Was it dog or wolf-like?
I've had people refer to me with these so-called chupacabras. There's been a rash of sightings in the southern states, particularly from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, over into maybe Louisiana, these so-called chupacabras. Basically, those are not what people refer to as chupacabras, especially in the Latin American countries and in Puerto Rico. Those seem to be a mix of Mexican wolf and coyote for the most part. They're kind of a hairless-looking dog. They have kind of larger than usual fangs on them, or canines. They don't really seem to be aggressive, but they're seen a lot of times. They've got a nickname of blue dog. That's what some of the cryptozoologists refer to them as. In fact, Ken Gerhardt did a lot of investigation on that over the years. So, I wouldn't call them chupacabras. They're just a mix or a hybrid of some type of canine. Now, the chupacabras supposedly that have been seen in particularly Puerto Rico, I believe are some type of non-terrestrial or alien being of some type. I've heard some pretty harrowing stories of encounters with chupacabra, and these things they're large dog-like creatures, but they have spikes on their spines and kind of armored bodies, and sometimes real large red eyes, and they do seem to be somewhat aggressive. They seem to eat on livestock. People say they're bloodsuckers. I don't know. I don't know if that was the case, but there have been a lot of sightings over the years in some of these Latin American countries.
Interesting. Okay. Let's continue on here. Cosmic Floor is asking, what creatures are mostly reported in the Kentucky and Tennessee area?
Oh, definitely Bigfoot. I mean, there are a lot of upright canine sightings in Kentucky. There has been a rash of upright canine sightings in the areas around Louisville for the past couple of years. I have talked to several witnesses that have seen these things, but in particular, it's mostly Bigfoot. Now, you get around the Land Between the Lakes area, there have been some pretty interesting reports around there as well of both Bigfoot and upright canines. So, Tennessee, I'd say it's mostly Bigfoot.
All right, let's move over to Witchy, who is asking, have you ever received reports of the Beast of Bodmin Moor from the UK?
No, I haven't, but I've read a lot of reports of it.
Wouldn't that be the same as the Black Panther sightings in Florida?
The Beast of Bodmin Moor is more like a dog-like creature, more canine, though it's a quadruped. Some of these hellhound sightings, even the like you said, the Black Panther sightings, are pretty bizarre. I mean, there seem to be certain areas where they are concentrated at, but as far as the Beast of Bodmin Moor, I've only ever seen one photograph that supposedly was of this being. I've talked to many of the researchers in the UK about this and others, and they seem to think it's maybe a misidentification for the most part, but they're not really sure.
All right, let's move on here. Lots of questions here for you. Sass is asking, what's the difference between a Sasquatch and a Wendigo?
Well, Sasquatch supposedly is a flesh and blood being, though I have different takes on that. I think there may be some interdimensional aspects to it. as well, particularly in some areas of the country or in the world. A Wendigo is basically a possessed human that takes on cannibalistic tendencies. Chad Lewis wrote a great book about Wendigos. I had him on the show several months ago, and he really got deep into the lore of it and what they are. And they're not necessarily what a lot of people think they are. People think the Wendigo is some type of, cannibalistic type pale humanoid being that is transformed from a human or transformed from a spirit or something like that. Many of the historical reports of Wendigos have been people that have been supposedly possessed or have had some type of mental issue to where they turn into a cannibal.
Pleasant.
Yeah.
Very pleasant. That's not even fun. Bama is asking, what about mud fossil? You claim to get DNA out of a stone?
I have no idea what that is.
Me either. We will wait on that one there, as we got about 3 minutes to go here before we got to go to break. At the top of the hour, Lon Strickler is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Big Fat Creep is asking, wasn't there a rumor of zombie deer due to some kind of virus?
Yeah, that's true. There seems to be a virus that affects a lot of the deer populations in the United States and Canada, where they either lose hair, they form all kinds of weird tumors, and they just seem to wander around. I mean, I have seen a few pictures of these things. I don't know offhand what the virus is, but there definitely is something out there that, and people do call them zombie deer because it eventually kills them. I really don't think there's a cure for it.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. Let's see if we can get a couple more questions in. Jennifer is asking, have you ever heard of cases of freshwater squid-type monsters?
There's a lot of legends. The Kraken is one that comes to mind. People have talked about these large squid that have been seen, particularly in the Baja, in the Sea of Cortez. There's been a lot of sightings, supposedly, of these large freshwater squid. Those would be saltwater squid, of course. Freshwater squid, the only freshwater squid or octopi that I know of, or what has been seen and caught actually in the Oklahoma River, and that I have seen those. They're small though; they're not huge. But people have been getting some type of squid or octopus type creatures. They've been catching them in that river. Now, I've talked to Jack Carey about that, who's an investigator I work with. And he acknowledges it. In fact, he sent me a picture of one of them that a friend of his caught. So, there are freshwater squid out there. But, they're more octopi than squid. As far as huge squid getting into the freshwater and possibly either getting into having some type of ability to go from salt to fresh, I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, we're soon going to find out. Quickly here, we got 40 seconds. Grandmaster is asking about walking noodles from California.
I've never heard that term before.
I don't know, but it's making me hungry. I'm going to tell you that right now. Very, very hungry. We have Lon Strickler for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio, where we will continue talking about weird, strange monsters and cryptids. Of course, you can find all of Lon's reports at phantomsandmonsters.com, which I highly suggest you check out his blog. It's always new, it's always exciting, and it'll always make you scratch your head saying, what the hell is this? Phantomsandmonsters.com. You can find all of Lon's books. And then you want to stick around for the final half an hour of the show. Why? I'm going to get really, really pissed off with the New York Post. and their dislike of you who follow the UFO story. We'll be back. All right, we're clear, bud. Just going to put your mic on mute, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
All right. Be right back, people. Hi, Ozzy Rob. How's them ham hocks looking? High quality ham hock there, Rob. Way to go, Ozzy Rob. Hey there, Grantavius, how you doing? Good evening to you. Let's see, who else? Anybody else new come in?
Maybe on TV?
Magnus, thank you for another super chat. I appreciate that, man.
Maybe on TV?
Yes, Dave is mad at the New York Post. Hiccup. Very mad. I will explain why afterwards. Detailing Academy, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a kitty. Let's zoom in on Lon's kitty. Look at the kitty there. Look at that gorgeous kitty.
That's Vinny.
Hey, Vinny.
Psst, psst. You're on TV, cat. Do something. He makes an appearance occasionally.
Very nice. We love it. We love it. Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Chad, for matching Magnus tonight. All right, we got 1 minute here. Vinny's getting a lot of compliments in the chat room.
Everybody likes Vinny. He shows up for my show occasionally, not like he used to, but he does.
Hello, PBR. How you doing, buddy? Is there anything you do like, PBR? Says, I hate cats. Thank you to Magnus ×2. Thank you to Chad ×2. Thank you to Ozzy Rob. And thank you to Lynn, Michael, Donna, Tim, Snakes, Heidi, Anthony, Cat Chaser, and Ed Clater for the super chats. Really do appreciate it tonight. Thank you guys for the lovely support, and we appreciate you. We'll be going right now.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that we thank everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Flummadiddle. Flummadiddle is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight from phantomsandmonsters.com, we have the legendary Lon Strickler. And we love it when Lon is on this show because this guy is on the top of the world when it comes to strange and weird creatures. You can find all his books on his website. Once again, phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Good to be here.
Lon, we've been talking a lot lately about UFOs, obviously. And, you know, with everything that's going on with the United States government and the reports that are coming in there and this admission that they don't know what it is, even though I think that most of us believe that's all a bunch of BS that they're feeding us. But for you, on the alien side of everything, we really don't get a lot of good alien videos out there of aliens walking along the streets or you know, hopping in between houses. Have you seen any good footage recently of any extraterrestrials, or when was it?
Well, yeah, man, the stuff that David Eckhart has been sending me over the years is probably the best I've seen. You know, my last book, Alien Disclosure, has several of the photographs that David has taken in there. And I've been posting them on the blog and on my Facebook over the years as well. I think he has probably gotten some of the best ones. And I'm just not talking certain races. I'm talking a whole plethora of races he's been involved with. You know, I've written about him in there. There's a chapter about him in there, what he's experienced over the years. And but his situation involves no UFO activity. His his involvement has been through moving through portals and actual some type of some type of mechanism they use to come in and out, into his home, basically.
So for David Eckhart, explain to people who he is for those who may not be familiar.
Yeah, I met David about a little over a decade ago. He and his family had been experiencing abductions at his home. Basically, these were coming through portals in his bedroom. Literally, his whole wall would open up. He'd be taken into a cavern-like area that he believes was on Earth. These beings were mostly gray types, but there was a certain reptilian that always was involved with it. Why they chose him and his family, he still doesn't know that. But one thing they did early was they performed some type of procedure on him to alleviate his crippling arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. And in fact, I've seen the x-rays. I mean, it was over a 3-night period. And they totally alleviated. They showed the doctors can't believe it. It's one of those things. I've had reports from people over the years of people that they seem to be interested in, that where they do alleviate some of the disease they have or some type of orthopedic problems. But anyway, with David, they basically took him into certain areas of their facilities and basically showed him around. He would ask them why they do it, and this certain reptilian who was always seemed to be with him said it was just all he would say was he was ordered to do it. And this reptilian could communicate with English by mouth. He was taken to areas where these reptilians had family situations. He was also taken into areas where there were other alien beings and humans being used as slave labor in somewhere like a mining facility. He was also taken to areas where they did experimental surgery and such on humans and disposed of them. And he's seen it all. He has no reason for making all this, to make this up. I mean, this, he hasn't made any money off of this. This is something that he is, that has impacted his life over at least the last 15 years. And, it's caused problems within the family, hardships within the family over this time. But the story is a remarkable story. And in fact, he's going through there's a film crew who's actually working with him now, and an investigative group, couple investigative groups that are part of this. So maybe one day his story will come out on film. He has been seen on, just like the Paranormal Files before. I've written about him. I've had people who have conferred with him over the years. So, he is the real deal as far as I'm concerned. I've been involved with a lot of people that I consider experiencers and have had remarkable interchanges with these beings. But his is probably the one on the top right now. And, his doesn't compare to any that I've been involved with.
My goodness. Why do you think we have such a lack of extraterrestrial video? With all the encounters people claim to have.
Yeah, in his case, he's had to use a system of filters and other means to get them, because when he started doing this early on, he would put cameras and such around inside his bedroom where these portals will open up, and they would literally fry those things. I've seen some cams that they just literally burned up. It's amazing what they do. But it seems if you can catch them off guard, you can maybe get some photographs or video of them. And he's been able to do that to a certain extent, but it hasn't been easy. So some of the videos that he has taken over the years were actually just like the Paranormal Files episode. I talked to those folks that were doing the investigation after it had been presented on television, and they could not find any fakery or any way that he was manipulating anything. They couldn't explain it.
In general, though, with the amount of UFO sightings people are having and the amount of encounters people are having or claiming to have with extraterrestrials, are you surprised we don't have more quality video evidence?
No, I'm not surprised.
Why is that?
No, I really am not. I mean, I think for the most part, people are shocked when they see these stuff. They're not the first thing on their mind is grabbing the phone out of their pocket and adjusting it and getting a photograph of it. There have been some incidental opportunities for people to take images and video, though for the most part they haven't been very convincing to me. That's not to say that there hasn't been any done. I believe something has been captured but is being suppressed. I think it's also to do with what's going on with the Bigfoot. I mean, I think the government has some type of information and evidence that they just refuse to show. And, this thing with this whole so-called UFO disclosure that they've been promising and we've been going through, I kind of think we're being spoon-fed to a point because, we're not really getting anything earth-shaking out of them. They seem to think it is, but especially for folks like us who've been looking into this phenomena over these years, it's not really something that, kind of knocks my socks off. I've seen much more convincing evidence, from other avenues. And, of course, the Tic Tac thing is intriguing. It really is. But, there's got to be much more that they can show other than that.
I get that, and I can appreciate that. But, everybody has video cameras these days, or almost everybody has video cameras around their house for security cameras, or with children now, especially toddlers and babies. You get the video cameras to go with the baby monitors now. Everybody has access to some sort of camera. And it just surprises me, Lon, that we haven't got any good footage. It really does.
I think a lot of people are kind of reluctant to release stuff like that. If you see something like that, let's say it's on a monitor or on a security camera, you're going to think twice about releasing it and figure what's going to, be the consequence of doing that. I think there have been a lot of horror stories over the years that people kind of think twice and can't handle the ridicule. And, I believe there's a lot of good stuff that is available out there, but it just hasn't been released for public consumption.
I get that. I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about UFOs, because in the next half hour, I'm going to be talking about a recent op-ed piece that came out this past weekend from the New York Post that I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to be pretty hard on it. With what we're seeing with the UFOs and the government and that very extremely tame DNI report, what's your thoughts on everything that's going on right now?
I think it's a lot of the same. I mean, I have been really impressed with it. Quite frankly, I thought we were going to get more. We got much less than what I thought we'd even get. I have talked to a lot of people that are involved in a lot of this stuff and some connections with some of the sightings that involve government and military, and I'm just not seeing some of the things that I believe should be released. I mean, or that's much more convincing. I think many people want to believe that UFO activity is alien associated. I think there's a possibility that some of it could be, but I think more than not, it's not involved with alien activity. I think they'd be much more convinced of the UFOs and what they're releasing if there was some type of alien activity attached to it. I think there was a survey out not just recently that 2/3 of Americans believe that there are aliens and they do live on this planet. My whole thing about that is, I believe that because, quite frankly, I think humans are the universal species and we're related to these things, man. There's a connection. There's a definite connection between humans and other beings that we're seeing.
And I agree too. I thought we all got ripped off.
Yeah,
I would think that we all, we got a taste. We got a little bit of, like we're dying of thirst, and we get a droplet of water on our tongue and say, "That's enough for now. You'll survive."
Well, the way they hyped it, it was, they could become more forthcoming with it, but the report, which was 5 or 6 pages, I wasn't impressed with it.
No. What were you hoping that was in there?
I was hoping that there was some connection to non-human activity, even minimal. But, there was nothing like that even involved there. I mean, I was hoping that they would kind of release something and like that. And no, I was disappointed because of that.
One of the biggest disappointments for me, Lon, is the fact that they only went back to 2004.
Yeah.
And they are making this a military issue. It has nothing to do with the history. It has nothing to do with people's sightings. It has nothing to do with events like the Phoenix Lights. Nothing. And here we are.
I thought a lot about that when some of these TV shows were coming out, like Project Blue Book and some of these other, where they kind of made a mockery of the whole thing, actually. Because what they showed on the screen isn't that how it happened. And, when they start coming out and saying, the government starts coming out and saying, well, we've got this, we're going to release and this and that. Well, they're releasing military information. They're not releasing private information. They're not releasing experiencer information. That's where, if a disclosure, if UFO disclosure and alien disclosure is going to happen, it's going to be from the experiencers exposing themselves. It's not going to be from the government. The only way the government's going to do it is if we're attacked or something lands on the Washington Mall or something like that. Then they got to come out and say, this is what it is. But that's not going to happen until something drastic does happen.
My feeling on it is they still have to figure out how to cover up hundreds, if not thousands, of secrets. All right? From what they have, the technology they have, if they do have crash retrievals, if they do have bodies, if Skinny Bob or EBE-1 was real, you know what I'm saying? Walking around Area 51, whether S4 at Area 51 is real.
I think personally, it's pretty obvious that the technology that we have gotten within the past, I'd say since World War II, a lot of it is generated by other races or other beings from other, technological worlds or societies. I think we are seeing a result of that. I mean, our technology has increased so fast over the years. It's almost like we double what we put out there every couple of years. It's amazing. I mean, 20 years ago, the fact that we had these personal devices where you could talk to somebody on a screen, we wouldn't even thought about that. We'd have thought that had been unbelievable. It was hard enough to believe computers. The way computer technology increased itself over less than a decade. It's just hard to imagine, but it did happen. And I just don't think humans got that much smarter that quick.
Well, I mean, it would be like introducing UFOs and aliens would be like introducing somebody in the 1800s to an iPhone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Or a tablet or YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's, we live in a remarkable time. It's not always good, but it's different, and it's much more, I don't know. I guess it becomes more dangerous as time goes on because there's a lot of pitfalls with the different types of technology that we're getting involved in. But we just got to learn to go with the flow and hopefully alleviate a lot of the problems that are associated with it.
My friend, we got 3 minutes left with you tonight. 3 minutes. What's your summer look like, and what can we see on Phantoms of Monsters coming up soon?
Well, we're going to see the same thing with Phantoms of Monsters. Anything comes up that's, interesting is going to get up there. With the pandemic and everything coming to a close, hopefully, more people are going to get out there and we're going to see more things and more things are going to be reported. Hopefully. I have noticed an increase in a couple months. Just like with the winged humanoid sites have increased. People are getting out and moving around a lot more. Myself, I don't really have anything scheduled for the rest of the year at this point. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything. If something opens up to where it's to my advantage to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm currently working on a book right now, and I changed my publishing company. I'm with Beyond the Fray Publishing now, and they're doing a remarkable job with my previous books and re-releasing them. And I mean, that's what I'm into. That's what I'm doing right now. And as far as the blog goes, I don't see any changes coming up on the blog, but I'm always open to a lot of different things. I do my radio show on Beyond Explanation YouTube channel now. I've been doing that about a year. Unfortunately, we recently lost the gentleman who has been one of our founders, Mark Fuller. He passed away over a week ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, his son is taking over and doing as much as he can. I think other people are going to get involved in this as well. So we're going, we kind of hit a hiccup there, but, we're going to keep it going and try to increase some of the viewership on there. We got I'm always open for a lot of different things. I'm always grateful to the people who take the time and trust me and the people I work with to report sightings and kind of put it in our hands to put it out to the public. I'm always grateful for that.
Well, we're always grateful to you, my friend, when you come on this show on Spaced Out Radio. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, Lon. It really is. I mean, you are literally one of the best guys out there, and you're very open, you're very candid and honest with your information. I know there's always a bunch of critics out there, but I'm telling you, man, I think you're one of the best going, and you deserve all the accolades you get.
Well, I appreciate that, Dave, and I really enjoy coming on with you.
I appreciate that too, my friend. PhantomsandMonsters.com is Lon's website. You can find all his books on his website as well. And coming up next, I tell you, I'm feeling a little anger right now. And it's directed at the New York Post. It's about UFOs. We'll get into it when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Lon Magnus says, you're an awesome guy. Thanks for helping out with his dad a few years ago. It helped a lot, and I love you.
Well, I'm glad to help people out.
That's what you do, and your cat had a nice view up there.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he came up, but he's pretty fickle, so he decided to make it tonight.
Well, I appreciate you staying up late for us, my friend.
Okay. Well, like I said, maybe I can get you back on the show soon, too.
Anytime. Just let me know.
Okay.
I'll make time for you.
You take care and stay cool.
Yeah, cool, I hope.
Yeah.
Cool, I hope. All right, buddy, you take care.
I'll see you.
Good night. Lon Strickler, everybody. Thank you, Chad, for the third super chat as well. And, yeah, thank you for everybody. Thank you to Magnus for the hat trick as well. Ozzy Rob. And Lynn, Michael, Donna, Tim, Snakes, Heidi, Anthony, Cat Chaser, and Ed Clater. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm pumped up for this. I am pumped up. Very, very pumped up. I know Nicole Sackich is listening, so I got to make sure I do this properly. Because Lord knows, I know she's probably going to share it. All right. Does the hair look good for this one? Oh. Well, you know what? It doesn't. So that means I got to put in some Mighty Moose beard oil. Yes, I do. I'm using the Winter Blend, my favorite, because I could use some winterizing around here right now. Just drop it in your hand like so. Gary the Dutchman, going to give you a good deal. Go to mightymoosebeard.com. And then you can just massage it in. That's it. Just massage it in. And, oh, I got a spider on my desk. How you doing, buddy? No, go the other way. There you are. No, not on the board. Not on the board. No, he doesn't want to go up there. He's on my board. Anyways, go see Gary the Dutchman. It's all in Canadian money. You're going to get a deal. It's a real rarity in this world. You're actually going to get a deal from a Dutchman. All you need to do is use promo code SOR2019. And Gary the Dutchman's going to say, damn it, I got to give this person a deal. I'm Dutch. I don't give deals. And then he's going to be like, but I promised Dave. And he's going to be like, damn it, I just lost some money here. And I'm Dutch. I shouldn't have to do this. Oh, yeah, you do, Gary. Yeah, you frickin' do. SOR 2019. Go to MightyMooseBeard.com. And for the ladies out there, this stuff works great on your hair. It really does. It feels great. It smells great. It's all natural. No chemicals. And you're going to love it. You will. Trust me on that one. MightyMooseBeard.com. Check it on out. See, VPXM, you know what I'm talking about. PBR, you wish you had hair like Nick Pope. You really do. You want a Brillo pad just so you could scrub your frying pan just by going like this. What do I think about Cosmic Hoax? I think it's crap. I think it's crap. He might be a Flying Dutchman. Maybe. I made PBR laugh. Jeff Iarchik, I never deleted your comment. Where did you send that stuff to? And Julian, just for the record, you or Beehive Chuckles or anybody else who claims that I have banned you from this show has never happened. There are very few people that have ever been banned from our chat room. Very few. And you two, whether it's Beehive Chuckles, who's been an idiot towards me trying to start fights in another chat room, or whether it's you, okay, you've never been banned from this chat room. Even Kidden the other day, who was mouthing off about Samantha Mowat, he's back. We don't try not to ban people around here. Excaliburful, how are you? I mean, sometimes there's a difference between giving somebody a 5-minute major and a timeout and banning someone. We don't ban people. Do I think Nick Pope is a disinformation agent? No, because he doesn't give any information. Thanks again, Magnus. Here we go, guys. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, the news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky. Sometimes the unbelievable. Look, I'm going to read you this op-ed that came out of the New York the New York Post today. And I'm a little cranky about it. All right? I'm a little cranky about it. It was written by the Post editorial board. It's insulting to you, me, many people involved in the UFO field who have worked diligently at getting this story out. Let's read it to you. Yes, UFOs and little green men are fun and have inspired tons of entertaining fiction. But the U.S. intelligence community was entirely right to dump all over the conspiracy theories and their really out there nonsense in its report of sightings of unidentified aerial phenomena. NASA boss Bill Nelson admitted that we may not be alone in the universe, but the odds are overwhelming that any intelligent neighbors are far, far away. The report didn't explicitly rule out extraterrestrial activity as an explanation for the 144 UAP sightings by military pilots and other federal workers since 2004, but it also provides zero evidence supporting alien theories. Connected crackpots and cranks have gotten a few politicians to force the Pentagon to investigate the issue several times and even to hire believers for some of the work. One such nut or cynic, Luis Elizondo, claims that higher-ups ignore and actively suppress evidence of alien encounters. But the only evidence for his claims is a UAP file detailing sightings with no clear explanations. That's hardly enough to convince anyone grounded in the real UFO world that it's time to start making tinfoil hats. The latest report was required in one of the last year's relief bills, another example of how pet projects get snuck into even emergency legislation. It looks at cases like the Tic Tac incident in 2004, when a Navy pilot reported a giant breath mint-shaped craft flying at a high speed with no visible means of propulsion, as well as a series of strange intrusions involving 9 Navy warships in the Pacific in July 2019, some caught on video. The analysis confirms that some of the phenomena were likely physical, not optical illusions or camera tricks, as they showed on radar and other sensors. But beyond that, its cautious conclusion was that a lack of high-quality reporting hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about what the nature of the intent. That still leaves them all as nearly certainly 1. Airborne clutter, 2. Natural atmospheric phenomena, 3. Output from government or industrial programs, 4. Drones, foreign surveillance craft, or 5. Some other normal thing not yet understood by science. Tellingly, of the 144 incidents, only 18 showed flight patterns outside what is typical of objects in the first 4 categories. Even most of the politicians and scientists advocating an investigation into these occurrences cite national security as their focus, not an attempt to make contact with any space neighbors. Astrophysicist Adam Frank, who has received a grant from NASA to look for advanced technology outside our solar system, admits that the videos of these supposed extraterrestrials are most likely footage of drones from Russia or China, or more prosaic explanations. If any other intelligent life forms are out there somewhere, they are not hovering around the Pacific waiting to be taken to our leader. Now, the New York Post has not been very friendly to the UFO subject, and in talking to Stephen Greenstreet, who was on this show and a good friend of this show, and his great podcast that he has, he represents the New York Post. He's been trying adamantly to get the editors to take this story seriously. And he actually went on a diatribe on Twitter regarding this entire topic about how this article, this post by the editorial board, really, really dampers any type of journalism that is being done or not done. So Old Davey, if you haven't known, is an ex-journalist. In fact, it was on July 4th, 2007, when I signed off the air for the last time at my radio station. And then, of course, in 2014, we started Spaced Out Radio. But the one thing that really grinds my gears, and I have to be polite here, is faulty journalism. Quoting what you want the story to say. Quoting what you feel the story should say. Taking your readers and giving them your insight. Now, granted, this is an op-ed. This isn't real journalism. All right? This is an op-ed from somebody who hid behind the title of post-editorial board. Now, whether you believe Luis Elizondo or not, that is your choice. But to call the guy a nut or a cynic, especially in a paragraph that you lead off with connected crackpots and cranks, really doesn't do your editorializing any justice. In fact, it's childish. It's BS journalism, it's BS writing, and taking a pot shot at a guy that you haven't even interviewed or talked to personally to see whether or not this phenomena is real. You are basing your story and your level of intelligence on this entire subject in your pea brain that you have. You're using and picking and choosing whatever suits your own narrative. That's not what this subject needs, New York Post. This subject needs quality journalism. Obviously, that's a skill above your newspaper right now. Because if you actually looked at the evidence, you looked at the high quality of scientists and government officials who have come out to talk about this story, you would understand that there is more to the phenomena than just little green men. All right? Are you questioning high intelligent pilots of the United States Navy and their intelligence? So they're smart enough to fly a $60 million aircraft, taxpayers' money paid for, but they're not smart enough to identify the difference between a garbage bag floating through the sky and an object that moves from 80,000 feet down to 50 feet above sea level in under 1 second. Please tell me what kind of high-quality garbage bag that would be. It makes no sense. Taking shots at Luis Elizondo, and look, at first I was not a fan of him. I told our listeners point blank, be skeptical. Be very skeptical. But in the conversation since then that I have had with Mr. Elizondo over the last couple of months, probably 6 months, as well as members of his team, I can firmly say that I believe he has the right direction that he is wanting to go, although he cannot tell us the majority of information that he wants due to non-disclosure agreements. As a journalist, and you should know this, New York Post, that's okay. We rely on sources to get our information. But what this article is, this op-ed piece, it reminds me of a hipster-looking person writing this who brags about how they just changed their tire of their Toyota Prius. Electric Toyota Prius. This is what it looks like. Somebody who is more interested in learning the language of the local coffee shop, because I don't speak coffee, than actually putting some of their fickle knowledge and understanding and journalism into this topic that is ripe with information. This topic is extremely ripe with information. You're choosing not to run these stories, or you're choosing of having an opinion that this is all faux pas, is lack of credibility at best. In fact, it makes you look stupid, considering that the New York Times, who has a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist in Ralph Blumenthal looking into and covering this story, really gives them the heads up. Look, UFOs on a business side are a great, great invention, whether you believe the story or not. Because you know why? People read the papers. They want to know. They want to believe. The numbers in the United States, due to recent polls, show that almost 2/3 of the United States men and women believe that UFOs are being seen and they are here. Now, granted, some of that may be technology, but if you look and actually paid attention, New York Post, you would understand that whether it's Mr. Elizondo, whether it's Chris Mellon, whether it's government officials, they are looking into this. Are you calling your naval generals crackpots? What about the report that has mentioned that the United States Air Force is now looking into it? You take a shot at NASA, which is usually standing for never a straight answer. Now they're looking into it? All of a sudden, the SETI Institute, which has been searching for this for decades, now admits that maybe they'll start getting some information as well. Everybody is jumping on the bandwagon because the information is coming out. The people who you are insulting, aka your readers, are people who are normal people, whether they are lawyers, whether they are trash collectors, construction workers, or work the deli at the local supermarket. Even radio hosts have had experiences that are undeniable to them. And what you also did was you slapped your reader in the face. Because there are millions of people out there, New York Post, who have literally had an experience that they cannot figure out. Whether it's seeing a triangle of lights in the sky or having extraterrestrial contact with a being that has literally changed their entire outlook on life and has made them very, very scared to go forward each and every day. Those are your readers. Those are the people that some smart ass at a desk who just rolls his or her eyes every time the UFO topic comes up and says, we're not doing this. We're better than this. No, you're not better than this, because your job is to report the news. That is what your journalism and your journalistic integrity is supposed to do. By calling people like Elizondo names, by not listening to Stephen Greenstreet, who promotes your paper on numerous podcasts, including his own, and is a paid employee by you, okay? All you're doing is insulting the public for no reason. For shock value, the shock value is the story. You're refusing to cover the shock value to the dismay of your readers. And the fact that now you have an editor that will go on record and insult the readers, insult people who are in high up positions who make way more than probably the $85,000 a year that you do. It's insulting. It's disrespectful. These are good people, hardworking people who have experienced something they can't explain. We have people trying to bring this subject out, very intelligent people, all right? Lots of scientists. Are you calling Avi Loeb, who believes Oumuamua may have been an alien spaceship? Are you calling him a dummy? Because Harvard doesn't think so, and he's a professor there. What about Dr. Bob McGuire, former head of the Hume faculty at Virginia Tech University? You don't get that position by being an idiot or not being smart. Yet here he is talking UFOs. What about the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Research, that is filled with people with doctorates in scientific degrees that you at the New York Post could only dream of? So you go listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Sure, his naivety is wiped all over Twitter if you want to check it on out. Or you could listen to the people who are actually taking the time to do science rather than conduct opinion. Just like you didn't conduct any journalism when you conducted opinion in writing this horse crap of an article. Making fun of people is one thing. It's different when you make a causation for the article that you wrote. You didn't give any statistics. Out of the 144 cases, if you read the statistics properly instead of towards your own editorial brand, you would realize there were 143 that were actually unexplained. The one that was what? A weather balloon. It was a weather balloon. So the fact that you would attack people and attack the subject really shows either A, your lack of intelligence, or B, your lack of journalism, or C, your lack of understanding of how real this subject is. And if you put an iota of effort, as you would have, instead of instead of the storm between, say, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, if you put that much effort into the UFO story, you might actually get somewhere and actually write some real news for once, instead of being a hack job tabloid that you seem to be turning to. It's ridiculous, New York Post, that you would absolutely censor this topic because your editors do not believe in the subject. Your personal choice on the news is not journalism. It's just like personal opinion is not science. Science, if you break it down to the lowest common denominator, is testing everything out to find whether or not things are real or not real. All right? Break it down to the lowest common denominator so the majority of us can actually understand. Right? You have to do experiments. It's the same thing with journalism. You have to take the time to check the facts, check your sources, check your quotes, check your interviews to see if there's something there. Remember, if you hear it once, it's a rumor. If you hear it twice, it's got legs. If you hear it a third time, you've got a story. But apparently that doesn't work for the New York Times. They don't want to do that. They don't want to fact check because they don't believe in UFOs. They think everybody is being hoodwinked. Tell that to the thousands of people daily who have sightings. We're not talking little green men. We're just talking strange lights in the sky. Because you know what? With all the apps out there, it's very easy to tell what is a drone, what is an airplane, what is a garbage bag floating around with trash blowing in the wind way high up in the atmosphere, and what is something that is unexplainable. But you don't want to do that because you're in your high and mighty office in downtown New York, sipping on your latte, wondering What's going to happen next between Cardi B and Nicki Minaj? Ooh, let's get those ratings up. Free Britney. Instead of worrying about a topic that could affect every single person on this planet. You're able to write whatever you want, New York Post. You can. You can write it. That's your job. It's an op-ed piece, so it is opinionated. We'll give you that. But when you skew facts for your own benefit, rather than putting the real facts out there, it does a real detriment to your paper. It shows a lack of credibility to the New York Post paper. There are a lot bigger people looking into this than just some tinfoil hat 7-Eleven worker who works a night shift, who doesn't have a dental plan, and has never made more than minimum wage. I know that's what journalism and journalists think of the UFO people, because I was in the newsroom when those calls came in. I know exactly what it's like. And to put that picture on some very brilliant people and some very honest people who are having extraordinary experiences is disgusting. And the fact that you would insult everybody in there, from NASA to government officials to Luis Elizondo, who's put his neck on the line, to every one of your single readers that has had an experience, it really shows the lack of class and the lack of empathy that your newspaper has, not only for journalism, but for the public itself. The public whom you, New York Post, are supposed to be the watchdog for. Remember calling a story down the middle? Or is that way too CNN and Fox News for you? Remember the days when you did a story and you wrote it point and counterpoint? The real journalism days? Rather than some hipster op-ed who doesn't believe in this subject, so that way we're not going to run it? Your opinion means nothing. Get to the journalism. Get to the story. Get to the work that needs to be done. Because without it, you're no better than the National Enquirer. In fact, they're probably better than you. TMZ right now is looking better than you. And that is really sad to say, that a historic newspaper like the Post has turned out to be the newspaper version of TMZ. UFOs are here. They are real. People are seeing them. And you want to make fun. It's a bad day for journalism when an article like that comes out. Shame on you. Thank you for everybody tuning in to Spaced Out Radio tonight and allowing me to wrap it up with a little bit of a rant. Appreciate you. Thank you to Lon Strickler for coming on in as well. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone checking us out on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and of course, Twitch, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.